Thank you for watching and listening to another edition of Inside the Pylon. I am Fidel Barraza alongside Chris Arzola. Chris, what's going on? Happy belated Halloween. How you doing?
Yep. Yeah, man. Good. Hopefully you had a good Halloween. It was nice and relaxed here at my household. Passed out some candy, watched some scary movies, a little something like that. So it was good. It's a good time.
Well, Chris, I will tell you, mine was better than Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. Let's get right into it.
Yes, please.
Late last night, well, I think it was around 10 o'clock in California Pacific Standard Time. I saw that the Raiders had posted a message on there. I kind of ignored it at first, and then I looked at it and it said that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler were fired by the Raiders. Now, I would say I was taken back by that, but I really wasn't, Chris, just because of the way the last couple of weeks have gone for the team, especially after that embarrassing loss in Chicago, and then after I don't even know what the hell to call it. On Monday Night Football, the offensive performance was not good.
hmm
The writing was kind of on the wall for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the fans have been calling for this for several weeks now. Obviously there was an incident. Remember that incident that happened with Mark Davis, where the crowd, was obviously kind of, chanting at Mark to fire him, to fire Josh McDaniels, and Mark kind of clapped back a little bit and kind of, told him some stuff. But like you said, the writing was on the wall. The team, I think Josh McDaniels. Honestly, I think he completely lost that locker room. This entire year, it's been a completely up and down year with injuries. The offense not being able to get going. Uh, it's just been a complete, I guess, shit show from the start, basically.
Yeah, Chris, and we had talked about this last week. Then we said that this game on Monday was going to be very important for this team moving forward. Essentially, it was going to kind of dictate how the season was going to go. We were on with Walter and Ashanti on Lions Avenue. Make sure you guys go check them out here on YouTube. And how important the game was, that something had to give, and it did. I
Yep.
wasn't.
Yep.
Mark Davis, I mean, he essentially signed him. I think, was it a 6 year contract? It was a long contract for both
hmm
Ziegler and McDaniels. Um, they didn't even finish year two.
I mean, I think what it was is he wanted to bring in, people that worked under Belichick, and wanted to bring it in, like, AK, what they call the Patriot way, I guess, over there. And so, honestly, that being said, Josh McDaniels, he does have a history of not being able to perform as a head coach at the highest level. Obviously he did have a head coaching position already with Denver. We saw kind of what happened there, and honestly, the same thing, has transpired here in Las Vegas. Again, I think he completely lost that locker room. The fact that now they are bringing in Antonio Pierce to be their interim head coach, I think that's going to be good for the rest of the season going out. Antonio Pierce is a NFL veteran. He's able to connect with players and stuff like that at the new age, NFL. And so, because of that, I think it's going to be maybe a little bit of a spark for this team going forward. We saw what they did 3 years ago when John Gruden was fired. They did rally. I know this is a completely different group, but again, the Raiders 3-5 after all this chaos. I think they still have a chance to kind of rally and see what they can do for the rest of the season.
Chris, I want to backtrack to last season. And this is kind of where really everything started unraveling, I guess, for this football team. The second half, the leads that they have in the second half, they were blown, essentially, right? I remember vividly that bad overtime loss against the Arizona Cardinals. Hunter Renfro he gets hit pretty hard. He gets concussed. He fumbles the ball. Isaiah Simmons, I believe, was the person that hit him on the Cardinals. He gets returned for a touchdown. They lose the
hmm
game. That Thursday night debacle against the Rams. They had signed Baker Mayfield. I think he's with the team for like what 48 hours.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, and he brought the Rams back and beat them. There was just a lot of things that happened, and then obviously after the Pittsburgh Steelers lost on Christmas Eve last year, they decided to bench Derek Carr.
hmm
Now, one could say, well, hey, Derek had been there for a long time and he struggled and it was the right move. whatever you want to say, but obviously the move affected some of the players on this football team, more specifically Devontae Adams. We have seen Devontae Adams the last couple of weeks kind of blow up, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
Saw the frustration with him on Monday Night Football towards the end of the game, throwing his helmet, and you can read his lips. I'm tired of this bullshit, is what he said. So there's just a lot of things that happen. And then let's
Yeah.
go back to this offseason. They signed Jimmy Garoppolo. But me and I mean, talking about Hondo Carpenter, he's a Raiders insider for SI.com. They wanted Tom Brady, and Tom Brady
Yep.
would be with the football team, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. They ended up signing Jimmy Garoppolo. They thought he was healthy. It turns out he was not healthy. He needed surgery.
Yep.
So at that point, they could, take him back the contract and, just kind of moved on. But they decided not to. He had the surgery, got cleared. He was supposed to be the franchise quarterback moving forward. Well, that hasn't worked out. I think he's missed, 2 games, and it leads the NFL with interceptions.
Yep. Yeah, he has the least amount of attempts, and he leads the as far as like the amount of attempts, basically to qualify for the most amount of interceptions in the NFL. And he actually has the least amount, but yet he does lead the league in the NFL with 9 interceptions, I believe, this year. And he hasn't played in 2 games, and we are barely going into week 9. So, um,
Yeah. And Chris, I'll be honest with you. I thought that this was going to work out way better than what it did. I thought that he was going to come in and was going to be able to, because this team had red zone issues last
yeah,
season. I thought that
absolutely
for sure he was going to be able to fix those just because he was more familiar with the system. He had been with
correct.
Josh McDaniels previously. He played, pretty solid with the Niners when he needed to, right,
Absolutely,
for the most part.
yeah.
So whenever that happened, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is for the best. But obviously that was not the case. And it's been a disaster essentially since week 1, even though they beat Denver. But I think it was the first or second play in the game. He essentially gets concussed.
Concussed, yeah. He fell down and he hit his head and he came out. He ended up going back into the game, but I mean, honestly, since that point in time, honestly, he hasn't been the same. He's been struggling with injuries pretty much most of the year. So, I guess you could say that he's been struggling with injuries. And me and you were talking a little bit before we hopped on, and I think there's a possibility that he still may be injured, right? I mean, he understood that one, a lot of people are calling that he needed to be out there, and stuff, and also too, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, come on, like you said, the writing was on the wall. This team has not been playing well at all year. Each and every individual player, star players, are having a bad year on the Raiders. The only possible one that's been playing well, obviously, has been Devontae Adams and Max Crosby. Other than that, I mean, everybody else has struggled. Josh Jacobs is I think when we were on on our show with Deshaunte and Walt, we were kind of mentioning that Josh Jacobs literally has like 341 yards, and it's going into week 9, the NFL. So it's just completely different from what it was last year to this year. But I think that's when the turning point happened, was when Hunter Renfrow did get that concussion, and pretty much from that point on, it was literally downhill from there. And like you said, Devontae Adams is not the type of guy that usually shows that frustration. He's a very professional player, and even
Mhm.
though he's showing his frustration, he's not showing that frustration in a negative manner, right? He's just really kind of, I mean, he's pissed off. I mean, it makes sense. This guy is a star. This guy is one of the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's played with a winner and Aaron Rodgers, pretty much his entire career. And coming over here, it's just been nothing but a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of getting rid of Derek Carr, and just a lot of weird stuff. So I mean, I get why he is frustrated. And like I said, I hope that Antonio Pierce can bring a little bit of momentum, just because it's a little bit of a different voice in the room, going forward.
Yeah, and we'll get to Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly here in a bit. I want to continue going back, right? Because it's important for us to kind of remind everyone about exactly what occurred and why this happened,
Hmm.
on Halloween night. So essentially, a lot of the personnel moves that Dave Ziegler also made, especially in the draft, passed on Jalen Carter. But me and you both discussed, right? There was a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons why they They shouldn't have drafted Jalen Carter, but at the same time, he was the most talented player in the draft.
Yeah.
They drafted Tyree Wilson. Obviously, he's coming off an injury. He's off to a slow start, and so far, it doesn't look good. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
The issues on the offensive line last year, they had essentially the same issues, but defensives knew that they could throw the deep ball. That is out of the element with this offense so far, and we'll see if starting Aiden O'Connell is going to change that. But essentially, that's why Josh hasn't had a good season, and he was out essentially the whole training camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, when you look back at, the past couple years, I mean, honestly, there are no stars as far as the people that has been picked by the Raiders. I mean, you go back to, 2000, was it 2021? Was that their first year that Dave Ziegler
22.
and 22, right? So,
Mhm.
um, honestly, in the past couple years here that I'm looking at it, I mean, there's literally no stars that really stood out to me. We're hoping that Aiden O'Connell can be one of them. But honestly, like you said, Tyree Wilson, the way he's been playing this season has got off to an extremely slow start. A lot of people are already saying that he's a bust. I think it's too early to say that personally for me.
Yeah,
I think going into 8 or 9 games into your professional year yet, and as a again, he did struggle a little bit with some injury, I believe, during preseason. If I remember correctly, it didn't have something to do with like a hamstring or something like that,
hmm
right? But I'm just saying, basically, he's been going. It's been a slow start. It does look bad, but again, looking at the draft from 2022 and 2023, there's no stars. So I mean, whatever they were thinking the Patriot way, I just
that's
don't
done,
think that.
Chris. That
Yeah, I
shit's
just
over with. And look, I'll say this right now: Josh McDaniels will never be a head coach again in the NFL. Never.
He's done. He's done. I mean that he had his opportunities, Denver, and obviously now what happened here, being fired 8 games into the NFL 2023 season. Yeah, he'll never be an NFL coach again as far as a head coach in the NFL. There's just
It
no one's
won't
going to give him
happen,
that
Chris.
opportunity.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
won't happen. And Dave
no
Ziegler
one's going
being
to
a
give him that
GM
opportunity.
again in this league, I don't think it will happen either. Josh McDaniels went 9-16 and is one, I guess, not even 2 years, a year and a half tender with the
Yeah.
Raiders. So now what, Chris? So Mark Davis had some commentary earlier saying that the reason why he made the move was because the team was heading in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've been hearing and what I've been reading, he was getting opinions, from the players on the team to
Mm-hmm.
kind of, trying to decide which way to go.
Yeah.
So obviously he did what he did, and he has named Antonio Pierce, former linebacker in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl with the Giants back in 2007, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to be the interim head coach moving forward, and then also assistant general manager Champ Kelly will be the GM for the remainder of the season.
I mean, so again, I think this is how I feel. Is like you said. I mean, they're bringing in a guy that he's been there, right? He's been there. He won a Super Bowl. He knows what it is to be in a winning culture with the Giants for many years that he was there. He was an outstanding linebacker for many years, and he started from the bottom. I mean, he worked his way. He went to was the head coach for Long Beach Polytech High School here in Long Beach, California. Then he went to Arizona State when they got their new regime there. So he did some things with Marvin Lewis while he was there. But I mean, as you can see, he's surrounded himself around a lot of different good people. When he had the opportunity to come to the Raiders in 2022, he became a linebackers coach, right? And then again, now we're October 21st, 2023. Again, he was now named the NFL head coach for the Raiders. And I think, like I said, I think it's a new voice. It's in the middle of the season. The season's not completely lost. We're 3-5, right? Again, right around this time for every team in the NFL, this is when you start making a move. Whether, like I said, whether you're going to drop back and you're going to start tanking more as a team and start, setting yourself up for, I guess, draft pick placement, or you're going to start taking, steps to be that playoff team. Now, do I think they're a playoff team? I don't necessarily think so, but do I think that they have it in them to compete the rest of the way out and make it a strong finish? I absolutely believe they could.
Yeah, Chris, and I just want to read this, and this was from Albert Breer, NFL Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders owner Mark Davis was angry in recent weeks with Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Davis met with players and was aware of their unhappiness and where the stars of the team stood on the direction of the football team. From the report, owner Mark Davis' decision to blow up his football operation just 25 games after hiring McDaniels and Ziegler started to feel like there was no other option in recent weeks. Davis was angry. The players weren't happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened and
Yeah.
why he fired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. So, look, um, record wise, this team going to be a lot worse. They're 3-5,
Mm-hmm.
right? They
Yep.
got some winnable games coming up at home. First one being here, in Las Vegas on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
against Antonio Pierce's former team, the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Right? They got issues going on, so
Yep.
they can easily win that football game. The week after that, they play Sunday Night Football against the New York Jets, and obviously Aaron Rodgers still not back. They do have a good defense, but they also have Zach Wilson at quarterback. So, Chris, 2 weeks they can be 5-5. New
Yeah.
season.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think this could light a fire underneath them, right? I don't know if anyone saw Antonio Pierce's press conference, but he was saying some different things, obviously that kind of, pumped the Raider fans up and stuff like that. And so, I thought, like I said, I think that's going to be a good. He's been in the locker room, but now it's a different voice as far as how he's going to be leading them. So I think it's going to be good. Like I said, I think they have a great chance to continue to compete. 3-5. We're going into week 9. Like I said, boom, we have Giants, and then we got the Jets. I think those are both winnable games. Jets have been playing a little bit better as of recently,
Yeah.
but obviously, we already know how I feel about the Giants and Daniel Jones. And like you said, I think that they're on the struggle bus right now as well. So I think that these are absolutely winnable games. They can absolutely be 5-5. And they say what makes everything better. Usually, it's when you're winning, right? So,
Yeah.
um, you know, let's get on that winning train from here on out. Let's compete and let's see where we go.
Chris, the first player that I thought about when all this happened was Hunter Renfro.
Yeah,
Um,
I started thinking about the
Essentially,
same thing actually.
he has not been using this offense. I mean, just Monday was essentially the first couple times that I've seen him like get a little
Yeah,
bit more involved, right,
yeah,
in the offense.
yep,
But we know he wasn't happy. They weren't using him. They were
yep.
essentially trying to move him. And from
I thought he was gone.
the reports I've been seeing that New Orleans actually was intending to trade for Hunter Renfro
Mm,
yesterday before the deadline.
mm-hmm.
But all this other stuff was going on, so essentially they didn't pick up the phone or return phone calls.
Got it. Got it.
Um, the Jets did try to trade for Devontae Adams. They were told no. Um, so
Well, yeah. Um, Listen, I think that Hunter Renfro. I think this can light a spark underneath him too. He's had a horrible season. I mean, again, yes, it goes back to last year when he got injured, and he's just pretty much been off since then.
yeah,
Since that point in time, but I think again he adds a different element to our offense, right? I mean, we have some good players. When you take a look at our players that we have, in key positions, we have good players.
yeah,
They're just not being utilized correctly. They're not being put in great spots. Yes, the quarterback play has not been great as well. And I mean, in order for this machine to normally go, you have to have a good quarterback, right? You have to
yeah,
have someone that can make the easy throws. And unfortunately, those easy throws have not been coming easy this year.
yeah. So look, they got a new interim head coach, right? We know what happened last time they had an interim head coach.
Yep.
They won the playoffs,
Yep.
right? So hey, Mark Davis, if Antonio Pierce takes his team to the playoffs, don't get rid of him. Give him at least a year, right? Because we know what happened to Rich Bisaccia.
Yeah.
You did a great job, and a lot of people were saying like, "Hey, give him a
They
year."
should have. They
And
should have given
and
him a
you know
shot.
what? I think Mark probably regrets that decision right now. But there's nothing good about regret. What you did is what you did, and all you have
Hmm.
to do is move forward. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I think that's going to be a great thing for the Raiders from here on out. Like you said, I think that statement couldn't be any better, especially for this team right now. I think we just got to move forward. I know we are right in the middle of the season. Sometimes this can really derail a team moving forward when you're going through as much chaos as the Raiders are going through right now. But I think again, I think one, we have the structure in place, the people in place in the locker room, and I feel like a lot of these veterans are going to take this as more of a pick me up and more of a positive rather than a derailing of a team. And like you said, they got two back to back teams that are coming inside Las Vegas, and they're both winnable games. So again, let's start getting on that winning train. Let's get it back to 5-5, and let's continue to move and just see what goes from there.
Yeah, Chris, and I guess the first piece of business that they took care of in the press conference was they brought up Jimmy Garoppolo, and they said that moving forward they were going to play Aiden O'Connell, the rookie out of Purdue. We
Hmm.
saw him play one game against the Chargers. It was an entertaining game. Towards the end, he had a bad turnover, so it looks like it's going to be Aiden moving forward here with this football team.
I mean, a couple, well, weeks back when he did get that start, I think one of the things that I mentioned was he looked fantastic in the preseason, right? But again, when you're in the preseason, like I mentioned, the playbook is this tiny compared to what it's going to look like in the regular
Yeah.
season, right? Obviously formations are going to be pretty, pretty minute, different things like that. You're not going to be going through, a lot of different reads, check downs, different things like that. And so because of that, I felt, that the playbook's so small. He's having a good preseason because he's doing the basics, right? He's doing what he needs to do against people that are probably not going to be in the NFL period. Now, when he played against the Chargers, yeah, he did, he kind of struggled a little bit and then kind of got some pace and got some rhythm underneath him. So I just want to see him being able to make all the throws, the easy throws that he should be able to make. And you know what? Just I say, open up that playbook for this kid. Let's see what he's all about. There's no reason to I think kind of keep him like in some doing some simple stuff here and there. I think let's open up that playbook. Let's see what he's all about. And like I said, I think a lot of players when they feel that confidence coming from their coaches, I think it just allows them to play a little bit more freely as well. And I'm not talking about freely as far as being erratic and chaotic and throwing interceptions. I think just not thinking so much, right? And letting the game come to them and slowing down the game as well. Because I think that's what happens with these young rookies is that the game is just too fast for them at times.
Yeah. And Chris, yesterday the trade deadline was officially closed.
Yep.
So let's go through some of those trades.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 9 big trades happened over the past couple of days. So one of the biggest ones was Leonard Williams being traded from the Giants to the Seahawks. I think that's a huge pickup for the Seahawks to bolster their defensive line. How do you feel about that trade?
Well, I felt good about it, right? I mean, essentially, Seattle now is in first place. The Niners have lost 3 straight games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're struggling, right? So before the season started, I'm going to tap myself in the back. I said Seattle was going to win the division. It's kind of trending that way, even though it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
close here, right?
It is.
Um, but hey, Chris, the Niners also made a big move. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's get to that one. So thank you for, obviously setting that one up for me. The 49ers did make a big move. They ended up getting Chase Young from the Washington Commanders. Huge trade, like you said. So any comments about that trade for the Niners?
well, let's go to the Commanders real quick. Look,
Yeah,
the writing's on the wall. They're blowing things up, right? I mean,
absolutely.
they got rid of those players. Chase Young, former teammate of Nick Bosa back in
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, right? So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, look, their defensive line is great now as well. They got
Yeah,
Javon
absolutely.
Hargraves there as well. They had to counter the move, right? Seattle got
Absolutely.
better, so they had to get better. So kudos to John Lynch for making that move.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that the 49ers have pretty much been the past couple years. They're the team that's going to go for it. I mean, obviously they made that big splash last year too with CMC. So I think, like you said, they had to counter the move for the Seattle Seahawks. They have definitely dropped 3 straight, but again, I think it's still time in the season where again you're either going to start making a move here, and I think it's right around that time where they're going to start making a move. So I'm not counting the 49ers out just yet as well. So we'll continue on. So the Washington Commanders did also trade Montez Sweat to the Bears. That was a big trade again for the Washington Commanders. Like you
Mm.
said, they are blowing things up and they are getting some draft capital from these trades that they're making. the Cardinals did trade Joshua Dobbs to the Vikings. I thought that this was an interesting trade.
Yeah.
How did you feel about this one in particular?
Well, Chris, I want to go back to the Monte Sweat trade first. So he is scheduled to be a free agent. Uh, General manager polls said that they're working on an extension.
Yeah.
He said that he first wanted to see what this team was going to do moving forward before signing that extension. So to me, it was a bad move by the Bears. He's going to be free agent. You had
Yeah.
to trade picks to get him.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee he's going to be here next year. So
No.
bad trade on that. Obviously, with Josh Jobs, I was a little bit surprised that they selected the trade for him. Obviously, we saw Kirk Cousins. He tore his Achilles. He's going to be out for the remainder of the year. Who knows? He might have played his last snap with the Minnesota Vikings.
It's possible.
It's possible. So now with Josh Dobbs, I mean, it just really doesn't do anything for me. Nothing against Josh Dobbs. And then here's the other thing. If I'm Justin Jefferson, am I signing the extension? Am I coming back from injury to play? Right? I mean, they had some momentum, right? They had to beat the Niners,
Well,
they
that's
beat
what
the
I was just about to
Packers.
say. Yeah.
So I mean,
I
it's a lot of things, Chris, that go into it. And I don't know if Josh Dobbs is going to do anything for him.
I
I
mean,
hope he does.
I mean, I like the way he played. I thought he's played well this year, to be honest with you, compared to what I was expecting out of him. I think they wanted to bring somebody that one he's been in the league. He's a very smart individual, so I think that he can pick up the offense right away. And like you said, they have momentum right now, right? They have momentum, and I think because of this momentum, I think that this is I personally like this trade for them, just because they're trying to get somebody that's on the market that's not too expensive, right? Because I think they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Kirk Cousins, if they're going to bring him back or what's going to happen there. So um, I thought this was a good move. I think that is going to allow them to at least compete for the rest of the way out. Which again, obviously competing is not what you want to do. You obviously want to, make the playoffs and stuff like that. And I think they still have an opportunity to do that. I absolutely they still have an opportunity to do that. So I thought this was a good move by them picking up Joshua Sweat or
Yeah.
Dobbs Sweat.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, and the other thing, Alexander Madison hasn't really done much for this football team this year.
No, he hasn't
They
done
did
anything.
trade for Cam Akers, so
Yeah.
I believe he's going to get a little bit more involved. But let's be honest here. I mean, Kirk was playing lights out, man.
Oh,
I mean, he
lights
was
out.
really good. I feel bad for him. He's a good guy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man. I mean, obviously Minnesota's going to miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll continue on. The Vikings actually did make a move. They did trade Ezra Cleveland, a guard, to the Jaguars. I thought that
I
was a
like
good
that move.
Yeah, I thought that was a good move for the Jags. Man, the Jags are
6-2.
they're
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 rolling,
not even
man.
sneaky anymore. They're rolling. And I expected this. Trevor Lawrence is everything that they've been wanting him to be.
Chris, but I think he can be more, Chris. I
Absolutely.
think
No,
he's able to
he
be a
can.
better player than what he is right now.
He can, but again, this is his second year in that offense. He's still, I think he's still kind of getting his bearings. But I mean, you're seeing what he's capable of doing. I mean, he's absolutely a top 10 quarterback, and he's leading his team to a 6-2 record right now. So I thought that was a good move by the Jaguars to pull off that trade for Ezra Cleveland. The Browns made a move and traded Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Detroit Lions as well.
I'll be honest with you. I really didn't get that move.
I mean,
I kind of did, but really.
To me that I'm surprised because Jameson Williams just came back, and so that tells me that maybe they're not fully in with Jameson Williams, which is to me is which is quite shocking because I mean he's a fantastic wide receiver, but again he didn't play that much in college. He was injured, different things like that. So I think he hasn't really played much in the past several years. But I think he has the talent. He's very capable of doing what he's, of being honestly a top 20, top 15 wide receiver in this NFL. No
But you
question
know what,
about
Chris? Now that I think about it, I can't think of who their number 2 wide receiver is. So,
Sam Laporta at this point.
well, tight end, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At this point, it's probably Sam Laporta. But no, I can't think probably either. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones he's going to be a 2-3. Like I said, if Jameson Williams can come through, I think he steps into that 2 role if he can
You got to
again,
develop still.
if he can be the player that they're expecting to be, I think he can be a two. I could see Donovan being a 2 or 3.
Hey,
So,
Chris, he got
um,
blown up by Max Crosby.
yeah, he sure did. He sure did. Yeah, no question about that. So, this was a good move that I felt like the Bills really truly needed. So the Packers did trade Rasul Douglas to the Bills. Like I said, I felt like this was a big need for the Bills with all their injuries that they've been having, unfortunately, this year in the defensive side. So I thought this was a good move for the Bills.
Yeah, I like the move. We got a little bit of help with Russell
Hmm.
Douglas, and
Yeah,
I know we're probably watching the last seconds of this Laker game. Let's see. No, we got overtime.
yeah,
Sorry, I mean
overtime.
Chris are Laker fans, and
Yeah.
they've lost to the Clippers. I think 11 straight
11
times.
straight 11
11
straight
straight.
times.
All
11
right, Chris.
straight.
So it's 117, 117. It's going into overtime.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I got the Lakers, of course. Come on. So
Well, I do too. Shit, I've had them in the last 11 times. It hasn't worked out in my favor. So
that's true. That's true. No, they got it. They're feeling good. They're
yeah.
feeling good. They got it. So
Yeah, so if you see my eyes going down, it's because I have the game right here on my phone. So,
gotcha. Gotcha.
but me and Chris felt it was important for us to be on here
Yeah,
and talk about
absolutely.
the Raiders, letting go of McDaniels and Ziegler and
Absolutely.
trade. So we
Yep.
are here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was a big week. Like I said, I don't think it was a surprise that they got fired. It was just kind of more of a matter of when, like you said, it, it, it was all over. It was all over the wall. Everybody saw it. So I got to give kudos to Mark as well to make the move when he did. Right.
Yeah,
I think he finally, I thought it was a good move, and I think that's why Devonte Adams did come out and said he wants to be part of the rebuilding, part of
hmm
building it back up
Oh,
and everything like that.
no, Chris, don't get it twisted. No rebuild.
No, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Who wants to be here to make sure that he's part of this journey? But I thought that was huge, and I think what it was he really respected that Mark came to the players,
I think all the
right?
players probably took that the same way, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they all respected that he came to the players
Yeah,
because for the most part, think about it, man. The players don't have a voice when it comes to football. Their sport's a lot different than it is like basketball,
yeah.
where these guys can say, "Hey, I want out, and I want to go here," like James Harden,
AK,
right?
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Damn, you read my mind. I was about to say
yeah,
James Harden right
exactly,
now.
exactly. But you see what I'm saying? So it's just like it's a different game. And so I think the fact that he went into the locker room, because again, I felt like Josh McDaniels already lost the locker room. The
Yeah.
fact that he went to the locker room and said, "Hey guys, listen, let's voice your opinions. What do you want to do?" And like I said, I think this is gonna and add a spark to
Yeah.
this team moving forward.
Yeah. Chris, you know what I was thinking? So I don't know if you saw Tennessee play Atlanta, but Will Levis started the game.
He
That
did,
guy had
killed it,
4 touchdowns,
killed it,
Chris. He
killed it.
killed it.
Yeah.
You don't think Mark Davis was watching him and say, hey, we could have drafted this guy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that he went as low as he did, I think it had a lot to do with more personality than it did his
Or
than it
maybe
did
because he
his.
throws mayonnaise in his coffee. I mean, shit. I don't know, right? I mean,
Well, I think it was probably all those pictures that he was posting of himself that he was getting jacked over all this time.
yeah.
So I think that kind of rubbed people a little bit the wrong way. But again, I think it was more personality more than it was talent. I think the kid has always had a talent. I mean, he has an extremely
Hey,
strong arm.
Chris, there were
You
some
know,
people that were discussing him that he could be potentially the first quarterback that was taken off the board last year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They were saying that. I mean, they were saying that. So the fact that he dropped to where he dropped to, I think one that lit a fire under him even more, because he was expecting personally to go in the first round and to go pretty high. So the fact that he dropped to where he dropped to, I mean, I think that lit a fire underneath him for sure. And he showed it, in his first start, 4 touchdowns. I mean, he absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
So
And Chris, listen to the show that way. So we got Thursday Night Football tomorrow between Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Will Levis will get the start. Kenny Pickett, not too sure. I think it might be a game time decision. If it's not him, it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. Who do you have in this game?
I got the Tennessee Titans. So I like Will Levis. I like their defense. I like the way they've been playing. and I mean, he's going to have to. He's going to be going against T.J. Watt. I mean, he's going to be going against a strong, strong defense.
Hmm.
But I think this game is going to revolve around Derrick Henry and getting the ball, the running game involved. I think if they can open up that running game a little bit here, that'll give Will Levis some chance to actually kind of have a little bit more time in the pocket, and when there's not 8 in the box, and he can kind of spread it out, use that arm, right? Maybe some play action, maybe a little bit of rolling him out of the pocket. I think being able to utilize that arm on the run and stuff like that is going to be a big major key for him tomorrow against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the other injury too, DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, is dealing with a foot injury. He
Yeah,
might be a game time decision as well. I am going to go with Tennessee as well. I just don't trust Kenny Pickett, and I know Pittsburgh's defense has been playing
yeah,
good. I
absolutely,
just,
have them.
I just can't pick them. I like Tennessee to win this football game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I can't. Pittsburgh's offense has just been really weird, kind of like the Raiders. Obviously, has been struggling
Chris, I
this
will
year.
say though, George Pickens, if you get this man the football, he will
Oh, for
do
sure.
what he's supposed to,
Again, that's the
and
struggle though. They
he's
they
balling,
can't
man.
they can't get on the ball because of their
Yeah,
quarterback. So I mean, it's the same thing that Vontae Adams is struggling with over here with the Raiders.
yeah.
So for sure, but I got the Tennessee Titans. We'll see. It's going to be a good game. Two tough teams, obviously, two great defenses clashing against two offenses that are one's maybe starting to find a groove and one's still trying to figure it out. So it'll be a little interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Pylon. Thank you, everyone out there, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.
Have a good one.